it then. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the C Plus podcast featuring Hex, Ginko, and Shogun Shin. As always, my name is Shogun Shin, and I am joined by my co-host Hex Ginko. This is.
I thought my name was hard to say.
What?
I said I thought my name was hard to say.
Yeah. I'm not good with alliteration, apparently. But this is a variety-style podcast where Hex and I just kind of talk about things that are interesting to us, things that we're reading, playing, watching, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, we'll just get right on into it. And I believe this is episode 5, I believe, yes. So, that's exciting.
Yeah, that's something.
Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is you and I both exchanged movies to watch that we both wanted each other to see. So I watched The Phantom Menace, asterisk being, I watched an edited version that you edited of The Phantom Menace.
Yep.
And I had you watch Knives Out.
Yep.
One of these movies is significantly older than the other.
One of them is also significantly shorter than the other.
Yes, that is true. Actually, I didn't even look at... So I knew that the edited version that you sent me was almost 2 hours. How long is the actual Phantom Menace?
The actual Phantom Menace is... I think... I cut out I cut out almost half an hour.
Almost half an hour? Wow.
So, I think it's a 2 hour...
2 hours and 16 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
So I cut it down to, I believe, an hour and 56 minutes.
Yeah, it was like an hour and 50, actually, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Which I will say, the edits that you did actually were really impressive, actually. I think there were only probably like 2 or 3 times where I was like, there was like a very glaring jump cut of like, we are in a different scene.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking lost again.
I tried, so I'm not a professional editor in any way. I do want to preface that. I had no experience with the editing software that I was using. I have no formal training in editing. It was just, I was trying to cut out what I considered unnecessary dialogue, scenes, just filler stuff, and try and make it as seamless as possible. I understand that there were some of the cuts that I made the soundtrack skip whole sections, or it would jump between songs because of a scene transition. So I tried to do the best that I could. Obviously, it is a totally amateur thing, but it was me trying to create a better, quote-unquote, Phantom Menace. For someone who doesn't know Star Wars that well and will not be bored out of their mind while they're watching it, hopefully.
Yeah,
anyway.
I liked it. So, okay. Watching this version of The Phantom Menace, I will say that overall, I did enjoy it. Though... I think if this was the first Star Wars I'd ever seen, I probably wouldn't have liked it as much, I think.
This version or just this movie?
Just this movie, I think. If this was the first Star Wars I'd ever seen, well, let me phrase that. If this was if I had never seen a Star Wars movie before, and this was if I started at 1, and I'm like, alright, I'm going to start at Phantom Menace, and then I'm going to watch all the other ones, I don't think I would have watched anything else. I don't think I would have ever watched another Star Wars movie. Because of, a lot of the times, one, I really hate Qui-Gon Jinn. Actually,
what?
I really kind of hate Qui-Gon Jinn.
He's the best character.
He, actually kind of bothers me occasionally. It was just, occasionally. He would, do stuff, and I'm just okay, whatever, I guess. I was upset that he died. Spoiler alert. I was actually really upset that he died. I was like, oh, that's actually really shitty. And, I knew he was gonna die, but I was like, oh, that's really shitty. Oh, that sucks hardcore. But, he would,
super sad.
Yeah, but, he would, do stuff. Or, I think it's because, maybe it's just because of, maybe it's either his character or maybe just Jedis in general. I always, occasionally, it always felt like he was just, really pompous or, arrogant.
He is, because he believes that the Jedi are not working in the best interests of the Force.
Yeah.
His philosophy is to do what the Force dictates and not what people let the Force tell them instead of interpreting what the Force.
Yeah.
You have to listen more than you have to assume, I guess. Which is why Obi-Wan says you would be on the council by now if you would just do what they say.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did like the fact that I felt like Qui-Gon definitely was a character that I like the fact that he uses the Force a lot more than I think any other Jedi that I know uses the Force. I love the fact that he's just really subtle using the hypnotism and using the mind trick, the mind trick, and using the Force to move the dice so he can cheat. And I'm I'm glad that he's very practical about stuff, but I'm just God damn it, you fucking dick.
Yeah. I love him. But I also love the way that his character it's more of a theory than an actual there's this concept of the gray Jedi, which is somebody who is neither dark nor light. They just exist in balance, which they have kind of referenced before, but it's not really a thing in the official canon or anything. And I like that. I like that there's no dark or light. It's the Force.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that's why I like him so much. Anyway.
Yeah. I will also say that I don't think they ever say the ages of anyone in this movie. Or any movie whatsoever.
Okay, I can tell you, because do you want to know how old Qui-Gon is?
No. That's not who I care about. Okay. I want to know how old Amidala is, and I want to know how old Anakin is.
She's 14, and he's 9.
Okay. That's not nearly as bad as I thought.
You thought she was 18 and he's some
I just
4-year-old kid?
No, I thought she was 14. 14, I was alright, that sounds about right. And then I thought Anakin, I don't know why, I just thought he was so much younger. I thought he was 6 or 7. And I was this 9. Is fucking weird.
This is gross.
And it's and even with them being a 5-year age difference, that's, in the grand scheme of it all, that's not that bad. But even still, this
Emily
young,
and I are 6 years
being
apart.
this young and having this weird friendship flirty dynamic, I'm I don't like this. You can just see it, and I'm they're obviously kind of flirting with each other, and I'm this is disgusting. I hate this. You are children. Because it's stop it.
Well, and it's there's another thing that you have to consider is this is Darth Vader flirting as a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that this is Anakin. Who this is.
Yeah.
There's a reason that this story is being told. You have to understand why Darth Vader becomes who he is in the future. This is not really a good setup for that.
Yeah, no, not really. Did you so I actually have a couple questions since this is edited. I wanted to know, for the pod racing scene, did you edit that at all?
Yeah, I heavily edited that.
Okay.
I edited that a lot because there's a lot of really weird dialogue that happens.
Okay.
That's just unnecessary. It's Amidala being oh, he's never gonna make it. You've bet our lives on a little kid, and it's shut up. Just shut up. Or Sebulba being haha, I'm gonna beat you, small child.
Okay.
Stuff like that. Okay. Or Anakin talking at all. Yeah. Because I don't know if you noticed, but Anakin doesn't really talk in this version.
No, not really.
Because, and I don't have anything against the actor. It's more the lines. The lines are not very well done, and it's just because George Lucas does not know how to write dialogue.
Yeah,
it's been a thing since the 70s.
Yeah, there was one point actually no. I'll get to that point later. I'll table that. But I want to talk more about the pod racing scene because I really liked the pod racing scene. I thought it was like I did think it was really interesting. I will say that the cuts for it were slightly jarring a little bit. Some of them were. But out of all the cuts, I think those were probably the best ones just because of I wasn't nearly as lost when like stuff happened. Like the jump cuts there were like several jump cuts there, and like the jump cuts made sense for the most part. Of like they were passable. Of like, oh, like in the back of my mind, I'm like, that was kind of weird, but at the same time, like I still understand what's happening and how things are going. There were maybe a couple moments where I was a little like confused because like there were several points where like it would cut to like a wide angle of like all the racers, and you could see which one, and like you were like, oh, Anakin's in third place now, and then would hard cut to a close up of him, and then another cut again to the wide angle again, and now he's in second place, and I'm like, well, that's weird. I thought he was in third place, and then all of a sudden he's like in third place again, and I'm like, there was those weird moments of like I had a hard time figuring out, wait, is he in first place? Is he winning? Is he losing? I don't quite understand now. There also was a moment where and this might have just been me not paying attention all that much, or maybe I just skipped over it by accident. But I got confused as to which pod racer was Anakin at first. Like I didn't know what his pod racer looked like, and so I was like of the wide angles. One of the wide angles, I was like looking at it, and I'm like, I don't know which one Anakin is.
Which one is he?
I don't know which one he is, and I was like, trying to go off of like different sort of context because I would like analyze a scene of like there was a scene where you could see his full pod racer, and I was like trying to like mentally remember all the details. I'm like, okay, it looks like this. I got it now. And then like when it cut to the wide angle again, I'm like, oh, I see him now. He's that one. Okay, I get it. I know where he is now. But there were a couple moments where I was like really lost as to like I don't know which one Anakin is, but I'm going to assume he's not first because that would be way too easy.
Yeah, he's not the big orange one. That's basically the only thing you need to know.
Yeah. It was like I did think it was him a couple times. I thought it was like there was a couple points where I was like I thought it was the big orange one, and I thought he was like there was another big green one, which I think was like third.
Oh yeah, the one with the 4 engines.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until like a little bit later I was like, oh, he's literally the small, like one of the smallest ones. I'm like, okay,
one of the really tiny guys.
Yeah, I was like, I see him now. So overall, I liked the pod racing. The pod racing was really good. I understand. Okay, so I kind of understand, but I also don't understand why people hate Jar Jar Binks so much. I think if I watched the other movies, I think I would understand it more. I think that's probably it. It's like if Jar Jar Binks was only in the first movie, I don't think I would have a huge problem because he's just comic relief side character. Like, all right, awesome. The fact that I think he's in multiple movies, that idea alone was like, oh, I really fucking hate this.
Well,
like,
okay, so his parts dwindle over time, like significantly. Yeah. He has maybe
that also I think might
maybe
be
5 lines in the second movie, and he has a very important but very small part in the third movie.
Yeah, I think that also might be why I don't have such animosity toward him, because I didn't see him a whole lot in Phantom Menace.
Well, that's because I took him out.
It's because you took a lot of those parts out. Like I saw him when
I took
I first
the really
met him,
cringy shit.
And then, like a lot of the times it's just like I will commend you for the fact that the edits that you did for Jar Jar, I was like, he's actually not that annoying.
Yeah,
I
tried.
Like,
I couldn't
in all the scenes that he
the
was
character
in
completely.
Yeah, in all the scenes that he's in, I'm like, oh, it makes sense that he's here, and I don't actively hate it. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's fine-ish.
Yeah, I loved Jar Jar when I was a kid. I realized that I was wrong. But, it's like he does play an important part to a degree. Like, he has to be there, even if you don't like him.
Yeah. It is weird to think that there are actually points where I was like relating to Jar Jar a little bit, and I think it's I think Jar Jar early on I think is a very good reference point as to like how non-Jedis view the Force and like how they understand it, because like the entire because this is another thing that I think I hate about the Jedi, is that, at least about Qui-Gon, is that like I hate how arrogant he is sometimes, of like, the Force is gonna be fine, like there's nothing wrong here, like it's all in the Force. And I feel like the Force, to an outsider's perspective, is just you either being radically lucky or radically unlucky. Like, there's no in between. You're one or the other, and that value is constantly shifting. Like, you're shifting from 0 to 1 constantly. And I'm like, if the Force, watching this movie, and I'm like, if the Force was like a girlfriend, this is a very abusive relationship.
This is
incredibly abusive.
Well, it's like, so Qui-Gon is like, trust in the Force, and the Force will guide you where you need to go. And he trusted in the Force.
Yeah.
All the way up until he fucking dies.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh hey, no, keep trusting in the Force. Like, this kid he's the one that's gonna bring balance. Oh shit, he fucked everything up. I mean, and you know, there's something to be said about the fact that, you know, Qui-Gon believes more than anybody, including Yoda. And even if you don't know who Yoda is or really what he's about, you know that he's the Force god.
Yeah.
He understands it.
Yeah.
But I think to a certain degree, Qui-Gon understands it more. So if it's lying to him or he's misinterpreting it, it's like, well, maybe everybody's misinterpreting it.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, yeah, and like the beginning of the movie, when they first meet Jar Jar and all that, the stuff that happens, I'm just like, the Force kind of blows.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of hate the mysteries of the Force, because it's so like, it's so hot and cold. I hate it. I will also say that. Okay, so here's one of my major complaints that I have for your edits.
Okay.
It was basically the climactic. It was leading up to the climax of the movie / So it's like near the end, when they are aligning themselves with Jar Jar's people.
Yep.
And that whole kind of scene of like them going to battle and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
One, I was really confused why they were going back to what's the planet called? Naboo? Yeah, why they're going back to Naboo. I was a little confused by that, but I think that was just because I wasn't paying attention all that much. And then when they meet up with the king, it's like Amidala walks up, introduces herself, and then it's a hard cut to, haha, I'm the real Amidala. And I'm like, huh? What? What? Okay. I called it, but like, huh? I was just like really, really lost as to like, that was a really weird cut, because I got really, really lost as to what exactly specific was happening. And then I didn't like the this is actually my question of, did you edit the Darth Maul fight scene and put it near the end of the movie?
So I edited the space battle fight, the Gungan versus Droid fight, and the Darth Maul fight to all sync up with their own respective. Oh, and the throne room. So all four of those happen intermittently of each other.
Yeah.
And I hate the pacing.
Okay.
I really don't like it, because it's like you get this really good fight scene, and then all of a sudden you're just like, all right, and now they're running into the throne room. Who gives a shit?
Okay.
And like, because of the way that the really, really great soundtrack is played out, like, cutting it up does it a disservice. So I feel like that hurts it a lot. But yeah, I did everything that I could to keep all of them contained within themselves, like so that you're not being thrust one and then another and then another and then another.
I think I may have actually preferred watching them cut up just because of. I think maybe that's just because of how it was originally edited and like that's technically how it's supposed to be.
For sure.
But I will say that I think the only complaint I have is I think if you were going to do it that way, like, you know, put them all as isolated, for lack of a better term, like isolated moments, and so that way they all happen and then that happens, that's resolved, go to the next thing. I think you should have put the Darth Maul fight a little sooner, actually. And it's because of there's one piece of continuity that I thought was actually really hilarious, and it's it's Anakin's in the fighter ship, and he like turns everything on, he floats over and he shoots 2 droids that are attacking Amidala while she's on her way to the throne room or whatever.
Sure.
And so
he
shoots the droids. They go through their whole sequence of the bait and switch and like get into the room, and then it cuts to Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul. And there's a scene where Darth Maul comes out, you see the double lightsaber, and then it cuts back to Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon where they take out their lightsabers, and in the background you can see the 2 droids that are shooting Amidala that Anakin just blew up, and I saw it and I was like, wait a minute, are those? And I paused it and I was like, didn't those blow up? Like, I'm pretty sure I just watched those blow up like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, and I was like, I actually do remember that. I was like, there were some issues
that I was like, wait a minute, stop for a second. And I think if you had put those 2 together, I think if you put those cuts together and then let them play out as they were, I think it would have been, worked out perfectly. But it was just like that singular moment, I was like, oh, what?
I will definitely keep that in mind, because I do want to re-edit this with especially I'm glad that you watched it, because you have history, like it was your major, so you know what to look for, even if you don't understand necessarily the context of the story in a lot of stuff. It's like you still understand editing from a professional standpoint, and not like you're not smart, like, hey, you're not gonna be able to figure this out. Star Wars is so complicated. It's not complicated. It's really dumb.
It's really dumb. It's actually super dumb.
But I definitely want to go back. My next project is going to be to do the second movie, which, oh my god, I feel like there's probably an hour that I can cut out of that movie.
Okay.
And it won't even be to its detriment, because I don't think that anything I cut out hurt the movie. I think it was just the way that I had to frame stuff.
That could definitely be really, really challenging, even just in a regular editing sense. Just because it's like you already have something that's already edited, so I mean it's already assembled in the way that it should be assembled, theoretically.
It was intended.
And then you're actively dismantling it, and you're basically trying to put puzzle pieces that technically shouldn't fit together.
Yeah.
Which can be very, very difficult. But
overall, honestly, so my favorite 2 parts that I edited was the pod racing scene, because that was one of my favorite scenes when I was a kid. Like, I had the toys. They made 3 pod racing games. They made an arcade one, they made one on the N64 and the PC, and they made one on the PS2 before the second movie came out. And I played all of them. I was really bad at the arcade one. So it was honestly really important to me to like get the feel of that down. So I'm glad that you said that you liked it, especially like the way that it was kind of edited down. I tried really hard to make everything flow as much as possible. And so you said that there were certain moments that it felt super weird that
I think
you couldn't tell which position Anakin was in.
Yeah.
That is honestly, I'm trying to really hard to think about it. I don't think that was me.
Okay.
I think that some of it was not necessarily me doing that. I think that it was just because there was a lot of deleted scenes.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, there is there are 2 specific deleted scenes in the Phantom Menace that actually shows Anakin moving further up.
Yeah.
And they don't exist in this cut of the movie.
I think it wasn't until like probably their second lap, quote unquote, that then I was like, oh, I know which one Anakin is, because it's like there's a scene where it's like it zooms in on him and you can see his pod, like what his pod looks like, and it cuts to a wide of him actually overtaking first place and going into first, and I'm like, oh, that's actually Anakin. I get it now. Like, oh, okay. I will say that, yeah, as going back to the pod racing scene, there are moments where it's like, one of the things that really struck out to me was, I was like, there are a lot of close-ups on Anakin. And I feel like a lot of it's really unnecessary, because it's like, it's like you'll see the pod races doing stuff, and it cuts to Anakin just like sitting there, like moving around, not talking, not doing anything, and I'm like, why is this here?
Because he was saying something really stupid.
Like, a lot of the time, it's just a cut to Anakin. It's just his face, and I'm like, this is so stupid. But so fast forwarding again back to the Darth Maul scene. One, I liked it. It was great. I think how the ending works really well. I thought it was really, really good. I think the one thing, and this isn't on you, this is just in general for the movie. The one thing that I loved/hated was Darth Maul kills Qui-Gon, then it's Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul, and Obi-Wan cuts Darth Maul's lightsaber in half.
Yeah.
And I hate the fact that he does that, but Darth Maul can still use his lightsaber. That it still works.
Okay. This is.
And
okay.
so
Do you want a real explanation?
Because
I can go into
it. Here's what I was thinking. It was just like, either this is something that just wasn't explained in the movie.
It's definitely not explained.
Yeah, but like I'm assuming that Darth Maul's lightsaber is actually 2 lightsabers that connect together, and that's how they become double-bladed.
So it is all one piece.
Okay.
It is built as one thing.
Okay.
Because when you see when he fights Qui-Gon on Tatooine for that very brief moment, he only ignites one end of it, right?
Right.
It's just one really long hilt.
Yeah.
So the way that lightsabers work is they contain crystals.
Yeah.
And that's what gives them their color. That's what gives them the power, right?
Yeah.
Darth Maul's contain 2. And so essentially, the crystals are built into roughly the center of the hilt, of each hilt.
Okay.
And they draw power from there. So cutting it down the middle actually wouldn't rupture the crystal.
Right.
So they are, and you can tell that he can turn one on and not the other. So they do run autonomously of one another, or I don't know if that's technically the correct term, but they
right.
Yeah, they can function separately.
Yeah, I got that. It was really, my biggest thing was just the fact that like the whole thing was constructed together, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's how can I describe this? Like, obviously, like there are circuits and parts in that hill, right? So it's like cutting it in half. You obviously have to be cutting something. Like something you can't, like I hate the fact of the idea of like Darth Maul has this hilt and in the middle of it is this chunk of just either hollow space or just a chunk of metal that has no purpose but just to be there, and Obi-Wan just sort of just happened to cut that part. Like, I refuse to believe that, and so like there has to be some sort of, I would have to believe that there are circuits and wires and breakers in throughout the entire thing. So cutting it in half, especially if it's supposed to be one piece, like obviously you could
think of it as like, so what the top part, like, so let's divide it into thirds, right? The top third functions to activate the first one. The bottom third, the very bottom third, uses to operate the bottom third, right?
Yeah. Right.
And then the section in the middle is, well, yeah, no, okay, so
like,
no. I have, okay. I'm gonna be a real big dumb nerd right now.
Okay.
I own that lightsaber.
Yeah, so do I.
And like in metal, I can combine the two together. Like I can separate them.
Okay.
And it's used with a little screw piece. Technically, that's not exactly how it works.
Right.
Obviously.
Right.
But if you use that as a basis,
the
center section really is just like
dead
a
space.
Housing.
Yeah. Which, okay, that's fine. That's fine.
That's the best explanation I can give you.
I just wish that a point like that was explained somewhere in the movie, because it's like,
yeah,
it's
you're
cool.
not gonna get that from Star Wars.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna happen
in the movie.
I obviously know that's not gonna happen, but like it was just like a small. That was like that right there. I don't know. Maybe it's just because of just me personally. Like I think in the grand scheme of it all, it's a stupid minute detail that nobody cares about. But like
it's also like
I
supposed
saw
to
it
be
happen.
Mysticism and
when I saw it happen, and I'm like, that shouldn't happen. Like that lightsaber should be useless. There's no reason that he should still have a blade there if he cuts the thing in half. Like there's no way. And I think if they had just done like a small, real small cut somewhere in the movie of him like making the lightsaber and showing that it attaches together. You don't even have to allude that it is double bladed. You know, you show the hilt and it's just him assembling the thing. Like that alone to be like, oh, that makes sense because they're two separate lightsabers, technically speaking.
Do you want to know something really frustrating?
Sure.
Okay, so there have been 3 trilogies of Star Wars movies, correct?
Yes.
There was the original trilogy that had Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. There's the prequel trilogy that had Anakin, Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
And then the sequel trilogy, which is Rey, Daisy Ridley, all that. In every single one of those, they never show you anybody building a lightsaber. Even though in every single one of those trilogies, there is at least one deleted scene of the main character building a lightsaber.
Huh. Interesting.
Return of the Jedi. One of the very first scenes that was supposed to happen was Luke forging his new lightsaber after he lost it in Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
And it was going to show you that he transitioned to a green one.
Oh, okay. So here's something that I was really curious about.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is in Star Wars lore, because I would have to assume it is. But obviously the Sith use red lightsabers.
Yes.
I thought it was very interesting that I'd always assumed that Padawans, their lightsabers were green. Like that was like a sort of like a ranking of like your lightsaber is green because you are in training. And then like Jedis were blue with the special case being Mace Windu.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very interesting that Obi-Wan uses a blue lightsaber, but Qui-Gon used a green one. And again, that's just because I'd always seen, whenever I saw a Padawan with a lightsaber, it was always green. So the fact that Qui-Gon is supposed to be the master and his lightsaber is green, I was like, that's odd. Like, that's super weird.
It's backwards from what you assume.
Yeah. And again, this is just another thing that Star Wars never explains of, like, what the colors represent, if anything at all. But the way that they allude to it is that, like, it always seems that, like, the lightsabers for Padawans are green. They don't actively say it, but it's like, you look at them, it's like, you can infer that's what it is. And so seeing Qui-Gon with the green lightsaber, I was just like, I'm just a little confused, honestly. It was just like, oh, that's weird, but okay, I guess I'll just roll with it. Whatever.
So within there have been several explanations over the years that originally it was the or at least from what I remember when I was really young, is that all Jedi go to a planet. It's not one singular one, but there are several planets where the crystals grow.
Yeah. And
you find your crystal, and it binds. It's connected to you in the Force. It's like a Harry Potter wand,
right,
basically.
Yeah. Okay.
And the most common crystals are blue and green.
Okay.
And that is kind of the way that it functions now. But there's a whole color spectrum of them.
Yeah.
But it also is different because within there's obviously Jedi Padawan, Jedi Knight, Jedi Master. But within those, there are also different, like, subcategories of ranks. So there is, like, the Jedi Consular, the Jedi Guardian, the Jedi Temple Guard, the Shadow Guard. Like, there's a whole, like... It's like the CIA, the FBI, that kind of thing.
Yeah, Yeah.
So the Temple Guards, every Temple Guard has a double-bladed yellow lightsaber. All of them do. I don't know if that means that they cast off their original crystal, but this is just what they have now. I believe it is Guardians. They are the more combat-focused, the more combat-focused ones, and they generally have blue lightsabers. And then Consulars are more introspective. They look into the Force and meditate and kind of try to. They don't use physical. They're more used as like mediaries in politics and stuff. So they generally carry a green one, for and there are very loose explanations for why an orange one exists and purple. And the only reason that there is even a purple one to begin with was because Samuel Jackson was like, hey, I want a purple lightsaber.
Mine is purple.
Because I want to be able to pick myself out in this giant crowd because everybody else has blue and green. Yeah. I want to be... oh, hey, that's me down there, as opposed
really
to I'm over
there. Yeah, it's really awkward that in watching this movie, seeing Samuel Jackson in this movie, he's probably my favorite character in this movie. You only see him like
he's
twice.
Such a jackass.
Like, it's so funny though. Like,
yeah, he's such an asshole.
I loved him in this movie. It's just like, it was just like two scenes of like, especially because it's like, can I train do I have permission to train the boy? And he just goes, no. And I'm just like, oh my god, it's so funny.
See, I was just watching a video recently, and they were talking about that scene specifically, and it kind of breaks the movie down when you think about it, because it's he went to go get permission, and Qui-Gon goes to get permission to train Anakin, and they tell him, no, you already have a Padawan and he's too old, and he's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway.
Yeah.
And there was no repercussions.
There's no repercussions. Like, they're just
whatsoever.
I guess we gotta let him do it. Like,
okay. But the other thing is, it is not uncommon for one master to have multiple apprentices.
Yeah.
Because there are more younger people than there are older people.
Yeah.
That's how life works
like,
in general.
Yeah, it's literally
But
impossible.
you're gonna
to
have one person.
Everyone has one apprentice.
Yeah, it's not gonna be a 1-to-1 all the time.
Yeah, especially because
it's impossible.
Like, really, becoming a Master Jedi, you're not gonna be a Jedi until you're at least early mid-20s, bare minimum.
Obi-Wan was, I believe, he was between 17 and 19 in this movie.
Okay.
And he becomes a knight at the very end.
At the very end, yeah.
So they don't tell you, but you he is a knight at that point when Qui-Gon is being cremated.
Oh, okay.
That he is a knight, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe not then, but at the very end when
Well,
they're
I
on
know,
Naboo,
I know
he was
that-
a knight and
I know that-
Anakin was a Padawan.
Yeah, I know that Yoda, I think Yoda, knights him, basically, essentially. Because there's that scene where he's talking to Yoda, or Obi-Wan's talking to Yoda, and Obi-Wan's like, yeah, I'm going to teach Anakin, even though, because Qui-Gon is dead now. So I think in that scene, I inferred that I was like, oh, this is when he becomes a knight, basically.
It's essentially they actually do have a ceremony. It is a knighthood. They get a lightsaber and you kneel down and knight you with one of those things, which seems so much more dangerous.
I was like, that's so dangerous.
Yeah, so you're in a circle of Jedi masters and they all light up their lightsabers, and then Yoda, you kneel down and Yoda takes out his lightsaber and then he cuts off your ponytail or your little rat tail that hangs off.
There's a reason?
Yeah, that signifies you as a
actually
Padawan.
I didn't realize that was I thought that was just a stylistic choice people had.
No, so Padawans have that braid. I don't know if it's only males, because they've never really depicted a female Padawan at least that much.
Right.
There are some. We know they exist, but
right.
We only really have ever seen Obi-Wan and Anakin as Padawans, right?
That kind of explains Anakin's hair at the end of the movie, then.
Yeah, because he has that braid.
Yeah,
and in episode 2, he also has that braid.
I saw Anakin at the end of the movie, and he had the haircut, and I'm like, that looks dumb.
Yeah.
Oh,
dude, God, I loved that. I grew one out myself.
Ugh.
When I was a kid. And yeah. Oh boy.
Ugh.
Not proud of that one, I'll tell you that much.
Boy, you had a phase.
I did.
Alright, so I want to wrap this up a little quick. Go ahead. So final thoughts. I enjoyed the movie. I liked it a lot. I thought the editing was very, very good, so I will commend you on that.
Thank you.
There were only
that means a lot.
There were definitely only a couple moments where if I had to describe the editing, if I had to grade it from a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it a solid 7, maybe 6.5.
Okay, cool.
Definitely pretty decent. Definitely pretty decent. The way I think my biggest thing about the editing overall was the fact that a lot of times it felt like I was in a car, but I was in traffic. So I would be moving at a consistent pace, but then I would have to brake and I would stop, and then I would generate the momentum again, and that would just repeat over and over again. Because there were several moments where it's we were everything's fine, and then it's a glaring hard cut because you're transitioning between scenes or whatever, and then I'm slowly trying to generate the context again of what's happening.
Sure.
And then that kind of just cycled over and over throughout the movie. It only happened, I think, probably 4 or 5 times, honestly, that I really noticed. So I mean, overall, in the span of 2 hours, that's pretty damn good, honestly.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that.
So overall, I definitely really liked it. Again, and it's just for the most part, a lot of this stylistically, I think you did a really good job at what you were trying to do, as far as editing out a lot of the unnecessary moments, and trying to piece together context a little bit better, so that way the viewer can understand what's going on.
Sure.
So I think overall you did great, and in the movie, as an overall sense, I liked it. I thought it was good. Again, I'll say that I think the reason I liked it so much though is partly because of I've seen other Star Wars movies. I think if this was my first time seeing a Star Wars movie, I would have probably, if I'd seen this in theaters, I probably would have been it was okay, and then I probably wouldn't watch the other ones, honestly. Mm-hmm. It's a movie that was kind of yeah, it was good, but I'm not really it doesn't interest me as a prequel, and as the first movie, quote unquote, it didn't captivate me to watch the other ones.
Sure.
So if I had saw this movie in theaters, and then there was an announcement, hey, Star Wars 2 is coming out, I would have been I don't know if I'll see it. I'm not really all that interested.
So I have a question for you. I am a huge fan of Star Wars. obviously.
Yeah.
I care enough about it to sit down. This took me over 10 hours to do. I care about it enough to sit down and take a movie that I used to love as a kid and accept that it has some major flaws.
Yeah.
And try and iron some of those out. And then give it to somebody who is not a huge fan of Star Wars.
Right.
Can you tell me what that movie was about?
What, the Phantom Menace?
What the general plot was.
Oh, yes, absolutely. 100%. So, actually, I'm glad you asked this question, because this was another point that I forgot that I was going to talk about, that I wanted to talk about. If I had to summarize the plot of the Phantom Menace, I would summarize it as two dudes and a series of very unfortunate events as they try to go home.
Okay.
That is how I would summarize it, because that's a lot of the times that's how it felt like. It was just like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are trying to go home, and it's just a string of unfortunate things one after another, and they just keep getting their trip delayed.
We're trying to go home. Okay, now we're on a water planet.
Yeah,
okay, we need to go home again. Okay, now we're on a desert planet.
And it's just like,
okay, now we're home.
Keep getting detoured.
But we're going back to the water
planet. And now we have to
again.
leave. Yeah, like a lot. Like that's how I would sum it up. It's just like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon try to go home, but they just keep having to take detours. Because that's exactly how it felt like. It felt like they were just like constantly like it was point A to point B, and they're just constantly taking left and right turns of just like why.
Yeah. No, that totally I've watched this movie probably more than I've seen any other Star Wars movie, except for maybe Empire Strikes Back. The actual plot, I can't really tell you because it's political and like the plot for this movie doesn't make sense until the next movie.
Yeah, so
and that's
there's
good.
Obviously a lot of like hints to like the Sith are returning and the dark side, but it's like you don't see it all that much. It like also, in the grand scheme of it all just seems like a weird political like overthrow, and I'm like, okay. Though I will say, I think it's Senator Palpatine. I think is what his name is.
Yep.
I mean, this might just be because I know who Palpatine is.
Yeah.
But like, and I don't know if it's. I guess I should ask you: did you frame it as he's the villain?
No.
Okay, because I watched Phantom Menace and I'm like, literally all the scenes that I see him in, I'm just like. He's the villain.
Oh, he's totally
obviously the villain.
Yeah,
like
I knew he was the bad guy when I was a kid.
Yeah, like it's so obvious, and I'm like kind of annoyed by it. Of like he's the bad guy, but there's no like
nobody's like this dude
like
seems
weird about it, and like the movie itself just kind of glosses over it. It's like just absolutely glaringly obvious. Like he's obviously the villain, but you just don't know what he's doing yet, and I hate it.
It's really weird to me that the Jedi are like, oh yeah, no, politicians are all terrible. Okay, then why not do something?
And yet they're in politics.
Yeah,
like
even though they're not supposed to be.
Yeah,
that's the whole thing. It's like, oh hey, no, we don't do politics because we're keepers of the peace. It's like, yeah, but you're letting the politicians do bad things.
Yeah, like
you're knowingly, willingly letting them do this stuff.
So that was
I didn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah, that was wild. Like, yeah, it was just wild. Just like watching. Like even at the end, I'm just like, you look at him. He's obviously the fucking villain. Yeah. Like none of this raises red flags. I fucking hate it. Like, and I think the biggest moment that I was like, he's obviously the villain, is when Amidala is at the conference and she's moving to a vote of no confidence, and he's literally whispering all the stuff into her ear.
Right.
Like, and I'm just like, that image alone, I'm just like, he's obviously
you should
evil.
know.
Like, you should know that he's evil. Absolutely. And I'm like, we're not gonna know who he technically is until at least the third movie. Or at least the second movie. And, like, definitely the third movie, because I know that's when shit hits the fan.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, so overall, I like the movie. Definitely don't think it. Definitely like as like a casual, very casual Star Wars fan, it was okay.
Super casual.
Yeah, super casual. It was okay. Would I watch the second one at this point? Maybe, but I'd probably wait for your edit, honestly, because that was a lot more. It was a lot more interesting. I feel like because I will say that I agree with your mindset of like you are trying to cut out a lot of the extra stuff, because I think this is something that I noticed watching 4, 5, and 6 and all the later movies. The later movies are a little bit better at this, but 4, 5, and 6 definitely everything moves so fucking slow.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, there were still points in this cut that I'm just like, okay. When
are we gonna get to the?
Can we please move on? Like,
right.
Come on, please. Like, I think it was like the biggest point was getting to the pod racing scene. Just the entire time that they're on, it's not Tatooine.
It's Tatooine.
Oh, is it Tatooine? Okay.
That's Tatooine.
The entire time they're on Tatooine, I'm just constantly just like, I don't care about this conversation. Like, I don't care. Please get to, like, they would like talk about something interesting and then they move on to just some pointless conversation, and I'm like, I don't care. Like, this is taking way too fucking long. And that's something that I definitely noticed watching like 4, 5, and 6, and even 7, 8, and 9, of like a lot of the time it's like a lot of it's just like exposition, or just like it's just filler.
There is a lot of exposition.
I feel like I'm watching a loading screen happen. Like, I'm just waiting to get to the next thing, and I'm just waiting for it to load in, and I'm like, all right, we're finally here, only to be blocked by another loading screen. Like, that's definitely how it felt like. And like, if you saying that you cut stuff like that out, and I'm just like,
half an hour out of
fucking
this
movie. Christ. Like,
I cut half an hour out of this movie that I've seen a lot. I'm not, I don't, I don't know Star Wars better or worse than, a lot of people. I have a good grasp of it. I'm a big fan. It's a big part of my life. I'm not a professional editor. This is just what I felt was like, do we really need this? Do we need this to tell a good story?
Yeah, and I feel like without even seeing the stuff that you cut out, I feel like overall I would say that like you did good. But at the same time, there are still points where I'm just like, I'm so fucking bored right now.
Believe me, there was stuff that I wanted to cut out.
Yeah.
But I was like, I have to keep it making sense.
For it to make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and there was stuff that I was like, I hope that this is going to make sense.
Yeah.
Because I have to take this out. Because it's so unnecessary.
Yeah.
Or it takes so long to get through.
Yeah, but so those are my thoughts on Star Wars. So that's my take on it so far. But let's move on to what you watched, which is a very recent movie that I saw. I saw this a little bit right after Christmas, I think.
By another Star Wars director.
By another Star Wars director. I fucking loved it. It was a great movie. It was it's Knives Out for anyone watching or
by Ryan. So I didn't know this. So he directed it. He also did the screenplay.
Oh, okay.
He wrote the damn movie too.
Oh, okay, cool. That's awesome.
So
I didn't know that. Yeah.
And after watching a movie that he both wrote and directed last time, I was not going in with super high expectations.
Yeah. So how I watched it, or how I got to watch it, was literally it was a little bit after Christmas. My family was in town, and they're like, "Hey, let's go see a movie." I'm like, "All right, sure, why not?" And they're like, "Let's go see Knives Out." And I literally never heard of the movie. I think maybe I had seen like a trailer, and like the trailer for it, if I remember correctly, I might be thinking of a different movie, but the trailer for it was like, guy starts dating a girl. He goes to meet the parents or the family or whatever, and out of context, they're all trying to kill him.
I think you're thinking of Get Out.
No, it's not Get Out, because it wasn't a horror. It was like a comedy, slasher or something like that.
Okay.
But I didn't realize that it was a mystery. Is the thing. I didn't know that it was a mystery movie. I knew it was supposed to be like a comedy of some sort, but I didn't know it was supposed to be a mystery. So I went in with
definitely never felt comedy in this movie.
Oh, I wouldn't say comedy, but like it was supposed to be like a lighthearted mystery. Dark humor. Like it wasn't supposed to be like a ooh, someone's dead, spooky. Yeah. It was supposed to be like a fun mystery type of movie. Like it was lighthearted enough that it wasn't like crazy deep and dark. But so I went in with the wrong expectations, and I came out of it like, oh, this was actually really, really fun, and I enjoyed a lot of this. But so I had you watch it, and after a lot of defiance, you finally watched it.
Yeah. I finally sat down to check it out.
Okay, hold on. Let's back up let's take a step back real quick. Why did you not want to watch this movie?
Solely because of the director. I didn't want to watch this because it was directed by Rian Johnson. Okay. He directed The Last Jedi. I hated it.
Okay.
And okay, I have also come to terms with the fact that the movie is not as bad as I thought. Okay. Like I still regard it as probably the worst or second worst Star Wars movie of all time.
Okay.
It's not as bad. It just didn't do what I wanted it to do, and that's fine. Like, at the time, I was just being a whiny little bitch baby of, oh, Star Wars is not what I thought it was anymore. You know, which is really funny because I went back the day that the first day that I saw it, because I've only watched it twice. I thought it was one of the best Star Wars movies of all time. And then I sat down a while later and I watched it again. I was like, oh god, this movie's bad. I also watched some breakdowns of it, and that definitely changed my perception. Because I have an appreciation for stunt work. I appreciate good editing. I appreciate good writing. I can recognize it, even if I don't have the basic skills to do so, as you saw. Yeah. But I have a good understanding of how to edit a movie, and I definitely know what bad editing looks like. So that movie was not edited well. It was not acted super great in certain sections. But this movie was the complete opposite. I really enjoyed this movie.
Okay, that's
so
good.
I watched it with Emily last night.
Okay.
And it was really funny because I stopped. The movie was over, and I was like, I had all my notes down. And I was like, God damn it, I hate you, Shin, because I actually really liked this movie.
I told you it was a good movie. I told you that it was like a great movie. I feel like, again, like I think a lot, and from what I've heard from other people who watch this movie, it's a lot of time it's like most people have never heard this movie. Like it was a movie that like either like again I think came out mid-Christmas. It was a holiday movie basically, and like a lot of people just like wrote it off as just like, oh, whatever, I'm not gonna watch this movie. But
this movie did pretty well in the theater.
but like you watch it and it's like, oh, this was really good, and then just really word of mouth just spreads, and it's like people want to watch it now. And like again, it was just like, yeah, this is a good movie.
My coworker told me that I really need to check it out. I had another coworker who said that I think one of his friends or his roommates saw it 4 times in the theater, which is a lot.
That's a lot to go see
I've not even seen a single Star Wars movie that many times, at least in the theater.
I can't think of a movie that I actually wanted to watch multiple times, like in a theater too.
I went and saw Harry Potter twice.
Yeah, I think I may have saw Harry Potter a couple times, but
there's a couple, but off the top of my head, I can't even think of them. Because then I just think of all the times that I've actually seen the movie, and I'm like, yeah, I've seen that movie a fuck ton.
Yeah, but like going to a theater to watch it again, I'm like, I don't know. I think there's definitely one. I just can't think of it.
Anyway, so yeah, Knives Out was really good.
Okay. Good.
I think it was acted very well overall. It like across the board, I think everybody did a really good job. I really liked it. I don't really have anything bad to say here. I'm gonna look at my notes really quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like you have notes.
I took them periodically throughout the movie, so this should be able to like guide me through what happened during certain things.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
let's preface this of since the movie is still relatively new-ish,
It's a year old.
it's a year
Yeah.
old. But let's let's just say
Spoiler
spoiler
warning.
alert. Yeah, spoiler warning. Let's
Yeah.
just fuck it, whatever. We'll just spoil it. Fuck it.
Yeah, for the fact. Yeah, spoiler warning.
Like fuck
because
it.
it's a year old. It's a murder mystery movie. So like, yeah, things happen in this movie. If you're gonna
Yeah.
go see it, don't watch this part.
Yeah.
The intro was really good setup.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen Clue. I've barely played Clue, and obviously the whole thing is just this is Clue. That's the whole point of this movie.
It's basically celebrity Clue.
Yeah. Of hey, these are a bunch of really great actors, and they are all assholes.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what I have gathered from this movie.
Yeah,
I loved the introduction.
A quick tangent about Clue is, to my knowledge, I might look this up, but to my knowledge, the reason I think Clue is a good movie, sort of, but I think how it was marketed was really shitty. Was really shittily done. I think if it was marketed better, I think Clue probably would have done a lot better. Because the biggest part about Clue was that they filmed several different endings, and then they shipped those endings out to different theaters. So people didn't know that. So people would go to the movie, they'd see Clue, and they'd be like, "Oh, crazy! I can't believe Professor Plum was the murderer." And someone would be like, "The fuck you talking about? It wasn't it. It wasn't her.
Wasn't.
It was Colonel Mustard. Like what?" And so people were just completely lost because people were just like,
yeah, that sounds
they
really
just had
cool.
different it was super cool, but they didn't market that at all of this is a different ending, try to figure out who it is. No, it was just they just assumed that the endings were all different, and it's just well, what's
which is
the
a
real ending?
Fair.
What?
Why would you assume that your movie is going to have a different ending? That's
exactly,
so strange.
Yeah, so people were really confused about it, and then two people were just annoyed because they're just which one's the real one? I think there was one ending too. I think the real ending was it was nobody, but it was some completely separate person that
that's super dumb.
was super not connected or something like that. I think that's the actual ending. But in theaters, there was it was all a different person.
That seems like the worst ending. Why would you do that?
Yeah. Esperate in my chat is I think it was the butler. The butler was the actual real murderer. And you just never connect those dots ever. But that's the real actual ending.
Huh.
But yeah, I think it would have been really cool. I think it's a cool idea, but I definitely think that the way it was marketed was just it was such a shitty job of you could have done so much better and made this actual really hype, but it just didn't. But anyways, okay. That was a slight tangent.
Okay. So, I loved the setup. I loved all of the characters being introduced. Benoit's intro with him just being the guy on the piano, he would press a key when you could tell that the investigators were not asking questions, they were going on tangents. I loved. It was just subtle. At first you're like, what the hell is he doing? And then you're like, oh, they're just asking the wrong questions.
Yeah,
or this person is getting into not important territory.
Yeah, I will say that I think the introduction for his character is just a little odd, but I think that's the point of it, is that it's supposed to just be you're you what's her name? Jamie Foster?
Martha?
No.
Oh, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis, that's her name. I think it's she does it the best. She has the most relatable reaction because it's when he actually introduces himself, where she goes, "Excuse me, who the fuck are you? Who are you?" And I'm that's exactly the entire mood of leading up to that moment. You just kind of wonder who are you, and you just kind of go back to what you're doing, but you always just turn your head of huh?
My dad just died. Who the fuck are you?
So I do love how he was introduced, but I will say that it is weird, but that's the point of it.
Yeah, he was so the only I didn't look up a synopsis. I looked up the cast list.
Yeah.
because there's a lot of really famous actors in there.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that. I didn't recognize Daniel Craig at first. I didn't recognize him. Well, like, I saw him, and I'm just like, that looks like Daniel Craig. But in my head, I'm just like, that's not him. No, that's wrong. It wasn't until, like, literally he introduced himself, and I was like, no, that's definitely Daniel Craig. That's for sure him. I don't know why I don't know why. I just didn't think it was him for some reason. I think it's because I just picture Daniel Craig as James Bond. So him being anything that's not James Bond just is incorrect.
Yeah. So what was the guy who died's name? Was it Harnell?
I'm looking at the IMDb right now, actually.
Harlan. His name was Harlan. Yeah. So I thought that was Michael Caine at first. Like with facial hair, because very rarely, do we see Michael Caine with facial hair.
I can see that.
And then when he finally talked, I was like, that's not Michael Caine.
That's not Michael Caine. That's not right. Yeah, I can see that.
Arnold. And I can never remember his name, but the guy who plays Walt, his youngest son.
Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon. Holy crap, I love him as an actor. He's so good. He did a really good job in this.
He was really, really good.
Walt
was the one. He was the one that had the cane, right?
Yes, he was the one who ran the publishing company.
Yeah.
Okay, so I loved all of their stories, their reasons that they were connected to or had motive to kill the old man. It would, like, obviously everybody has to have a reason for being suspected.
Yeah.
And they were all, like, realistic. It wasn't like...
They were all very realistic. Like, oh, you could have done
good.
it. Yeah, you're like, you actually could have done it.
Yeah. As soon as you actually hear Benoit Blanc, because, again, I read the cast list, I looked at the characters' names, and I completely expected him to be French, not
That's fair.
Bayou
Not
French.
Yeah.
So when he starts spitting out this Louisiana accent, I was like,
Southern
whoa,
French.
This is not what I was expecting. And for the whole, like, I loved it. I thought it was really good. It was still really weird because, like,
I like that it was
Daniel
like really,
Craig is
it was
European.
kind of like jokey. I like that it was like kind of jokey, but it was enough to be really realistic. Of like, I could still see this happening.
I'm disappointed about one thing with his accent, and it was the fact that he never said "I do declare." The fact that he never said that one time is a little bit of a letdown.
It's disappointing. I would
just a little sad.
Actually.
I loved because I don't know if this is an actual thing, but Marta's regurgitative reaction to lying.
Reflex.
It's so, like, what kind of a character trait is that? That's so weird.
But
it's really cool. And they utilized it really well.
Yeah, it's unique and yet very normal.
Yeah.
Like, it's surprisingly normal.
It was really interesting. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a really interesting device that they used throughout the whole movie. That she uses, or she was afraid of it because she was worried that she would put herself in danger, and then she ends up using it to get herself out of trouble.
Yeah, and I think it's also very interesting that she has to lie to not incriminate herself, but she literally can't do that.
But she can't lie.
Like, she physically can't.
Yeah. It's really, really cool. I was not a huge fan of the actual the inspector, because he kept saying weak sauce.
Which one?
And so there was Trooper, what's his name, and then there was the actual detective,
Lieutenant Elliot.
Yeah, Elliot.
Yeah.
He wasn't a bad character. He was just like, why do you keep saying weak sauce? This doesn't seem like an appropriate setting for that.
Yeah.
It just seemed odd. The soundtrack is really cool. I love the use of violin, and that I don't really know how, because it's not jazz. Just that kind of noir.
Yeah, like in
soundtrack.
Yeah, it's like
kind of feel to it. I guess is the only way.
It's like a dramatic, like noir feel to it.
Yeah, I love that the kind of ambiance that it lends to. What is it? Sherlock Holmes with Johnny Depp. That whole soundtrack.
Yeah.
Completely, like it's like they ripped that, but in a good way. Like I love the soundtrack to that movie.
It was very lighthearted. It was like again like I think a lot of
Depp. Fuck.
Robert
Downey Jr.
It's like, wait a minute, I know who you're talking about too.
Yeah. Anyway, that movie.
But yeah, I did like the soundtrack for it. Was really, really good because it's not a heavy dramatic mystery movie, but but it's still frantic, and it's still a very frantic movie. But it still is light and I guess bright for if I had to describe it in some way. Like it's like, and like even like just the scenes itself too. The scenes themselves lend itself to being a very bright movie. Yeah. Like I think it
wasn't dark.
It
wasn't
dark.
It was never
any
lit
sort of word
in a dark way.
Yeah.
Even though that this is a murder mystery.
Yeah, like even in the night scenes, like everything's relatively bright, but you still know that it's nighttime. Yeah. And, like at no point does it ever lend itself of like some sort of mystery of like suspense, I guess.
Sure.
Like you're never kind of like gripping your chair, being like, "Oh my God, what's gonna happen?" But you're instead, I think, if I had to describe, you're leaning in of like I would need to know what happens next. Like it grips you in a very different sort of way.
Sure. Yeah,
Chad's also saying that Espert's saying that she loved the speculations of how stuff happens, which I also loved. I loved like seeing how things are supposed to like play out, or like how someone did something. Because again, those are also very similar to Sherlock Holmes as well, which I also really love those of like seeing
I loved his
and stuff like that.
Come Watson, the game is afoot and all that. Like I was like, that's cool. Made me happy. Especially I was watching it with Emily, and she loves Sherlock Holmes and all that, so it was really cool. What was the next part that I had? So going into the specific characters, Joni is just Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no other way to interpret that. She is just Gwyneth Paltrow, and it's hilarious. Yeah, Flam. What is it? Young Walt. And he was just a Nazi.
Yeah, he's just like an alt-right Nazi. Ugh.
Which is really weird, because I've seen that kid before in other things. I can't think of a specific one. That was the kid from It.
Oh, okay.
That was Billy from It. And it was really weird seeing him be a total asshole. Yeah. After the whole point of It is that he's not an asshole. He's a nice kid. And that was really strange. Yeah. What was it? Richard? Richard is also an alt-right, like, which is, I don't want to start.
That's Jamie Lee Curtis's husband.
Jamie Lee Curtis's husband, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But he is so, like, brazenly an asshole. Like, he you can tell that he's trying to pretend that he's not. Yeah. But, you know, he's very, I
would say, like, very white privilege.
Yeah. Like he's like, oh,
very,
no,
very
like, they're all illegal, and this is not okay. Like, he was just straight up a dick.
Yeah.
And then he tries to get Marta to agree with him, which is also a huge dick move. It's like, but she's from another country, and she came in. Like, even if she did it legally, that's still a huge dick move.
Yeah, I love the characters in that a lot of them have very specific tropes, I guess, but they're all very relatable and they're all very normal like tropes. It's not like a weird character breakdown of like they're 80% like this and then 20% normal. It's like a 60-40 or like 65-35 balance of like yes, they are basically this, but they are normal people for the most part.
Oh yeah, no, it's very believable to have every single one of those people be. Yeah, those are all very real. Understandable.
Again, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, obviously, so I'm a little like hazy on details. But like the evening that they have like the party when they're recounting the events of the night. I can't remember why. Why are they there again? Like, why are they at the house? I can't remember.
When specifically?
It's the
because they go back to the house like a bunch.
It's the
and
night
they're like,
that,
oh, there's an
dies.
after party.
It's the last night that the guy's alive.
It was his birthday.
Oh, that's it. Okay, it was his birthday. Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember why, but like it was just really interesting because it's like watching all like them having these conversations and stuff like that. I just thought it was really like again, it has a weird sense of normalcy to it, and I'm just like watching it happen. It just looks like a really awkward Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is uncomfortably relatable in so many senses.
You could tell there was a lot of people that did not want to be there.
Yeah, and it's like you can see like you kind of like pick out of like I'm sure like like people who watch the movie, there is always a character that you can relate to, or like there's someone that like reminds you of somebody else. And I'm just I hate this, but this is so accurate.
So, I knew Chris Evans was in the movie, but he really wasn't introduced.
I will say
early.
that did annoy me of that like it takes a while to see Chris Evans, especially because I know for a fact that Chris Evans was like a pivotal point in the trailers and like PR for this movie, but I will say that I like the fact that he still has a role in the movie,
a very important role.
Yeah, a very important role compared to you look at Kingsman 2 as a perfect example. That Channing Tatum is in this movie, and you see him like 3 times.
Really?
And then never again.
I've never seen the Kingsman movies.
Okay, you need to watch Kingsman 1, because Kingsman 1 is fan-fucking-tastic.
Okay.
That's your next homework. Kingsman 1, fucking great movie. Absolutely phenomenal.
Is that
Kingsman
the one
2, not good.
where they go into the church and then fight all those dudes?
Yes.
That's the first one?
That
okay.
scene. Yeah.
Okay.
That's Kingsman 1, which is
again, I've never seen
honestly,
it, and I know what that scene is.
Absolute great scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Kingsman 1. But yeah, Kingsman 2. Okay, I'll say that it's okay. But it's not as good as the first one, obviously. But yeah, the marketing for Kingsman 2 was that Channing Tatum was in the movie, and it's like, oh, cool, awesome. You watch the actual movie, you see him like 2 times, maybe 3, and then he gets struck with a disease, and then he's in the hospital, and you never see him again.
Maybe he had scheduling conflicts.
Maybe, but it's just like really upsetting that like, in like a lot of the trailers, it's like Channing Tatum is in Kingsman, and it's like, oh, no, he's not actually.
but
not
really,
actually in the movie, technically speaking. But so yeah, Chris Evans in Knives Out. I like the fact that like it took him a while to get there, but he still was very impactful to the movie itself. Like he still added something. Like it's not just hey, we have Chris Evans in our movie, come watch it. It's like, oh, he's actually in the movie. Cool.
They gave him a reason to be there. Yeah. I loved his role. I thought it was really good. I knew as soon as he was actually introduced, I was like, oh, he's definitely my favorite character.
Yeah.
And he remained my favorite character for the whole movie.
Absolutely, 100%.
I loved that he was just an asshole. And he was, like, unashamedly an asshole, which is fine. I love guys that are like that. Like, I'm just going to be a dick. And why? Just because I can.
Because I can, yeah.
Yeah. Like, no shame. Just own it. That's cool. I think that's cool. It's because that's real. People are like that. People aren't just, like... I don't think people are inherently evil. Like, what is it? Say Doc Ock. He does evil things because he's evil.
Yeah.
But there are I think that everybody's got a little gray area in there, and he is definitely that gray area character.
Yeah.
Because you definitely don't know that he's he's a dick, but you don't know really anything else about him. Like, why is he a dick? And because they don't really tell you anything about him. And I think that's really cool.
They do a good job. Yeah, they do a good job at like hinting at who he is, but you never actually see him.
Never,
almost ever.
Once.
I think there's
do you
one,
really know anything about him?
I think there's one moment in the movie that you actually see that it's Chris Evans, and it's they're recounting the birthday, and it's like, oh yeah, I remember seeing
Ransom walk out.
Yeah, Ransom walk out. And you just see him
his coat
storm out the door, and that was it. And I'm like, oh, there he is. Okay, cool. And it's like that's like the only mention.
I loved the relationship between Marta and Harlan. It was very sweet.
Yeah.
It would because you don't know necessarily how she's related to the situation, because obviously she's not related to the family, and it's like she can just be a nurse.
Yeah.
And then
that could be the end of
Benoit asks her, he's like, so why were you here? He's like, oh, to be a she's like, to be a stay-at-home nurse. Yeah. And then it's like, but you were only hired for 15 hours a week. She's like, well, he also needed a friend. And it's like, that's a really important distinction. And then you get to see how close they are.
Yeah, and like,
when they start playing Go.
When they start playing Go, and it's like, I love that scene of they're playing Go, and she like jokes with him. He goes, "Hey kid, you want to do some drugs?" And giving him the medication, and I'm like, it's such a cute dynamic that they have.
It's very wholesome. That scene really bothered me, really bad, because they can't play Go. They were playing Go, but they were holding the pieces like troglodytes, and it really bothered me.
Well, I mean, like, the thing with Go is that, like, the pieces are they're essentially pebbles, like, essentially. Like, they're just really smooth pebbles. So it's like...
There's a way that you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
There's a specific way, and it's not hard to learn.
Yeah, but here's the thing, is that Go is also kind of a complicated game. Like... Yeah. It's especially because...
I didn't play it a lot, so...
I mean, I know of Go. I even have a Go board in my house, actually.
I used to have, like, 3.
And I have all the pieces, too. Like, I'm literally staring at the Go board in my basement. It's right here on my shelf. I see it. But I have all the pieces, but I never learned how to play.
It's super fun.
Yeah, like, it seems fun. But I'm also the kind of person that I don't like chess in general.
I
just know that Go is essentially, like, Asian chess. And I'm just like...
There's a lot of Asian chess games.
There are a lot of Asian chess games, yes. But I'm just like, no. This is too much thought process for me. I hate it.
Just play a 9x9. 9x9 is easy. That's what they were doing.
Yeah, but I feel like, I also think that, but Go is a very, like, I wouldn't say niche, but I feel like in the Western market, people
it's definitely
don't
not
really know what Go
here.
is. So it's kind of like, so you have to. I would say that, like, I'm sure that, like, when they were conceptualizing the scene, you have to figure out how can we make this relatively relatable. And it's like, okay, they're playing a board game. It's a very specific board game. Okay, it's essentially like chess, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, we'll frame it this way, and I could, like, so that's just me playing devil's advocate of, like, kind of how they did it. It's like, it's just to make it more relatable, and, like, even though it's like,
they could have done chess, and I think that would have worked fine. Everybody knows chess.
Yeah. But the problem is that the Go board. But the thing about it is that the Go board is actually a very pivotal thing, though.
A chessboard could be too. Well, so that's what I was trying to get at. Was like, it's all about the board dropping, and I was like, oh well, yeah, and then the pieces helped her to mix up the bottles, right? But it's like, chess pieces would have done the same thing. Mm-hmm. I think it was just one of those instances of, let's not do chess because everybody knows chess.
Everyone does chess, yeah.
So let's do something more interesting. Yeah. Let's use Go.
I think that's also another thing too, of that, like, this is gonna get a little like, not divisive, but just a little like mildly political. But like, I feel like with a lot of Western pop culture and like movies and TV shows, Asian culture is very mysterious. It's very mysterious, or like it's always perceived as Asian culture are a lot of Asian things are very like, ooh, this is exotic, and ooh, this is crazy or weird and wacky.
Yeah.
When it's really
this
not.
is that conversation that you and I were having with your sister.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really like, just comes down to that of like people are mysticized by or they're really enamored with Asian culture, even if they don't like
I mean we
respect it or understand it.
We are considered as one of like the perfect minorities because we're just sort of, we're not invasive necessarily, but everybody wants to debate arguably.
Okay.
Without getting into it, we're not going to
talk about Hong Kong. We're not going to talk about
without
Thailand,
getting dramatically into it.
Taiwan, Japan, Korea,
but we are considered Vietnam. As we're considered not. A lot of times, I feel like we're not considered threatening. For that. Yeah, we're not considered like threatening per se.
No,
but everyone's interested in what we do, but nobody really cares about who we are. Of like, like Asian stuff is cool. But it's like, whatever, Asians or whatever. They're just over there.
I saw an anime once.
We're like a sideshow attraction. Like you go, you watch.
It's really offensive.
You don't take anything from it.
Like, there's no other way. Like, there's no cookie. Like, or there's no way to sugarcoat it. Like, it's super offensive.
Yeah.
The things that I enjoy and appreciate, like when I was a kid, I didn't have an understanding of it. I was just like, oh yeah, anime's so cool, like because Asians did it. It's so much better. Like but you don't know why. Like you don't have an understanding of it. Like just shut up.
Yeah, and it's one part of like, it's like, check your privilege, white man.
Yeah.
But it's another part of like, even, I mean, I'm a little biased just because I grew up in the United States. So, I mean, I even also have that mindset of like, oh yeah, Asian culture is so cool, so awesome. And again, to me, it is partly a sidling attraction. But another part of me is like, you know, being Asian, being half Chinese, half Korean specifically, I feel like a lot of times we just don't care. Like, it's like, yes, it would be awesome if people cared more about our culture, but a lot of times, but the most part, it's like, we're really just kind of happy people are just paying attention in general. Of like, all right, that's whatever. Like, and I think that's it's that sort of complacency that also doesn't help with the fact that like, well, we want people to pay attention to us, but we're not actively trying to make people pay attention to us.
Sure.
And you know, it works both ways. Of like, you have to have people who are interested, but you also have to try and get people interested as well. And so it is an awkward relationship. But yeah, like without getting super into it, yeah, I would agree that like for this movie, you know, yeah, chess is boring. Everyone does chess, and nobody gives a fuck about checkers.
Yeah,
nobody cares about checkers. Fuck that.
Well, yeah, and
so we'll do Go instead.
I genuinely hope that somebody out there watched this movie and was like, "What's Go? That seems interesting."
Exactly. Yeah,
because Go is super fun. It's super cool, and it predated chess. It predated a lot of board games that people know of today. So go and understand the roots of that. Like even if you don't go play Go, like look it up, research it. It's really cool. A lot of people used that, you know, to understand battle strategy and like how governments work. Like it's very intricate. But at the end of the day, it's just a board game. Yeah. You know, you could view it the same way as chess. Like chess is a battle against another field, but it's way more complicated in Go. Not to like scare people off. It just operates differently. It's not just like 1-to-1. This piece is going to move here because it can. You can go anywhere on a Go board.
Yeah, and it's not just
anytime
like
for any reason.
It's not just like, oh, take the opponent's king, you win. There's like a whole like scoring and point system and yeah.
Go is really cool. Go check it out. Anyway,
this has been your PSA. Go check out check out Go. It's
very
cool.
fun game.
It's pretty neat.
They have a bunch of websites that have it for free that you can just go play against random people and a bunch of lessons. Okay.
Esper is saying that if you want to look up a name specifically, Hikaru no Go is
great manga.
It's a manga apparently. That's how she was introduced to Go, and apparently that's how a lot of young people are introduced to it. So
that's how I found out about it. Yeah. I read it in Shonen Jump, and then I started getting some of the volumes. Some of them.
So there you go. Plug Hikaru no Go. Go check that out. If
very well written
manga,
and beautifully illustrated. I think it was by Takeshi Obata. Takeshi Obata did Death Note, and a lot of people know Death Note. So if you like that artwork, go read Hikaru no Go. There you go. Plugging two things.
Hey.
Yeah. So Chris is a great character. Meg is also a great character, and I wish she had more screen time.
Was Meg the teenage daughter?
Meg was Joni's daughter, the girl who was going to college.
The going to college, yeah.
I feel like
I had such high hopes for her. I had such high hopes for her, and I was just like, I was very disappointed in one scene, and I'm just
I feel like she was wrongfully cut off from the family, or from the fort. I feel like of all the people who did not deserve to be cut off, it was Meg, because Meg was just trying to go to school.
Exactly.
It was her mom.
I think out of everybody, that fucked everything. She screwed everyone over.
Yeah. It was her mom's fault that she was stealing, and she had no idea this was going on.
Yeah.
And it's not like, oh hey, she deserves to go to the same school that she's been going to, even if it's really expensive. Like, no. She had nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
And she seemed to love her family, and she seemed to love her grandfather.
Yeah. But so and I think this is what makes me really sad about Meg's character, is that I agree with you all the way up until when she's talking to what's the main character's name?
Martha.
When she's talking to her when she's talking to her on the phone. That's that was literally the pivot moment of oh honey, you came so far and you missed the mark. I'm like, ooh.
From the sound of it, it was inferred that she was coerced.
100% she was. She absolutely was. But it was just that moment of again, she was at a crossroads of you can either go one direction or you can go the other direction, and you've chosen wrong.
Well,
there was definitely a choice. I will agree that she was for sure coerced, but I'm just for all the lead up to that point, I was hoping that I was just disappointed that she had given in like that.
Yeah. I mean,
especially with how defiant she was.
It definitely
about
hurt to see that, because it's you're definitely rooting for Marta, and you're you can tell that she only has two friends in this whole thing, because everybody has essentially ostracized her and labeled her as the bad guy.
Yeah, and and I think it's especially hurtful because
what are you
they
going
are
to
supposed
do?
to be friends. That's
put yourself in Meg's position, where you care about this person, and your entire family is vilifying this person, and they're trying that. I can't say that I wouldn't do the same thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's not because I don't care about the person. It's how are you just gonna go against your family?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that, especially when they're all coming at you. There's a difference between if your dad's being a dick to you and saying, oh yeah, you have to ask for this money. Mm-hmm. Every single member of your family is we're depending on you for our livelihoods to get this money back.
Yeah.
So yes, it was definitely wrong, and you can tell even later when Meg is hey, I'm really sorry. I felt I had to do that. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I just wish there was more of her. I wish there was more of her relationship with Marta, because you could tell that they were friends.
Yeah.
But it's
it is important. It does feel that after that moment, it's that's literally it's a hard cut. That bridge has been burned to the ground.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been nice to see either like seeing the repercussions of that more, or seeing them like maybe make up or something like that, or like seeing like the beginnings of maybe they're trying to make up. They kind of
did.
Kind of.
I like
bit,
to
but, like,
think that they did.
I'd like to think that in the end, like, she's like the only person she talks to. Like, Marta's the only family member, or Meg's the only family member that gets help. Like, other than that, fuck everyone else.
Yeah. Benoit had one of my favorite lines in that whole movie, and they were talking about the will reading, and Marta was going, and he was describing what it was, and not that she doesn't know what a will is, but like what to expect. And his quote was, "Think of it as a community theater production of a tax return."
Yeah.
And it was so funny. I was like, that is so accurate. That was really well delivered, really well written. I loved that line. That was one of my favorites. Blanc is he's the best character. Chris Evans is my favorite character. Marta is definitely the main character, but I think Benoit is the best character.
Yeah.
And
he doesn't steal the show. It's like he's a very, very good.
There are sometimes I thought that he was going to end up being like Inspector Clouseau.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think he's just kind of an idiot, or like I start to think that he might be kind of an idiot. There's one scene that I recall her, Marta talking to him. She's like, "You're not a very good detective," because it ended like it was at the end when they found the note, or not the note, the toxicology report, or whatever, right? And then she's like, "I just gave that to you. Like you didn't inspect or deduce anything." He's just like, "Yeah, you're a really bad murderer." So
yeah,
it was
so you know.
But he sees people like, he was the only one who went to go condone or give condolences to the grandmother.
Yeah,
which is really important.
Yeah.
Because he sees every single aspect of what's going on, or at least he's trying to.
Yeah.
And it's like you ask every single person in the whole thing, but nobody wants to talk to the grandma except for Benoit. Mm. And it got me thinking about there was this one comic from like 2009 or something, and it was during an event called Final Crisis, and Batman quote unquote died, right? So everybody was fighting for who was going to be the next Batman, and this was a really long event. Like it spanned a while. It ended up being Nightwing, Dick Grayson becomes Batman, right?
Yeah.
And so there's this really very powerful scene, and it's really, really sad because everybody's just fighting over who's going to be Batman. And no one asked, is Alfred okay? Until Superman and Wonder Woman are there, and they're like, and Superman's like, "How are you doing, Alfred?" He's like, "I'm doing terrible. My son died." And it's like, holy shit. That like nobody's gonna ask.
Yeah.
The one guy who this is probably impacting the most.
Yeah, probably the closest person to him. Like,
yeah, more so than Dick Grayson, more so than Selena Kyle, more so than anybody on Earth. This guy raised him. And it's the same thing for the grandma. It's like she raised her son. She's at least 100 years old.
Yeah.
Because he was 85. So there's no way she's not over 100. Yeah. That would have meant that she was 15 at the earliest if she was 100 that he was born. You have to, think about that.
Gross.
And I don't at the earliest. So she's probably like 103 or 105. And she just buried her 85-year-old son and nobody else. I mean, I guarantee you not a single one of those family members was
granted,
like, I hope grandma's okay.
Yeah, granted, like, her character is supposed to not be all together.
Cognizant.
Like, not cognizant. But yeah. No, it is a very good point, though, of, like, like, oh, grandma's kind of just over there. Like, I'm sure, I
Yeah.
hope she's okay, but like, we're not gonna take that step to actually see.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It shows
it is still
character
very impactful
in Benoit, and it shows a lack of character in the other characters.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think it lends itself very well to being like, obviously you're not supposed to like any of the actual family members, obviously.
Yeah. They're all supposed to be shitty.
Yeah, but again, it's like this is a very unfortunate fact, but it's like all the other traits that they have, it's very normal. It's a very normal trait to have.
That was a very normal family. It wasn't my family, but it's definitely a normal family.
It's uncomfortably normal, and it's like, oh, I hate it, but you're not wrong.
I don't think I have a single family member that is... we're all pretty along the same political spectrum. I don't think anybody deviates from that in my family. But I have definitely seen other families that are just split down the middle.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see that.
Yeah. I would say that I think my family, we all, like, including my extended family, I think we all align pretty similarly. And we know when we don't, that it's better to just not talk about it. Like, we know what lines we shouldn't cross.
You and I,
because we're not idiots.
yeah, we try not to bring it up.
Of just like, it's a lot of times, like with my family, it's like we'll say something and it's like, oh, that, like, so one of our family members would be like, oh, I don't agree with that, and it's either oh, let's talk about that more, or it's like, okay, we're not gonna talk about this anymore, because like, we know that it'll get awkward if we do it. Yeah.
I think you and I have pretty similar ideals in that regard, but I have friends who are definitely not in my camp in that way. One of my really close friends, Travis Strider, he's on the complete opposite end, and I love this guy. He's one of my best friends. I will have his back forever. And just because he feels differently than I do doesn't mean that I'm not gonna like the guy.
Yeah.
So and you can tell, even in that family, as dysfunctional as they are, they're still a family. They still love each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, for me, like, one of my closest friends, Mark, he's the kind of person that he's one of my best friends. I'll always have his back. I truly will. But oh my god, there are times where I'm like, I can't talk to you anymore because I know that I'll just get irrationally angry, because he's not necessarily ignorant, but he loves arguing. And he loves not necessarily trying to be right, but he is a very logical person, and so it's not necessarily, like, when you disagree with him on something, it's not because it's like, oh, my way is right and there's no way to convince me. It's, I know I'm right, or at least I'm like 95% sure I'm right, but I still want to talk about this because I want to know more of why do you think this way. And it's sometimes it's awkward because it's like that thirst for knowledge. Sometimes it's just like, it's really just best if you stop asking questions.
Yeah.
Especially for for very certain topics. There's always a point where it's like, we should probably stop asking questions.
Yeah.
Because we're not gonna get anywhere. But he never knows when to stop.
I can't have a conversation about guns. And it's really awkward. I can't talk about it because I get really angry.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like my angry is irrationally based.
I know mine is. A lot of times when I get angry, it's very irrational.
Because a lot of my coworkers, they're very like pro-gun. Everybody needs to have a gun, and I'm okay with that mindset. That's fine. Like, if you grew up, with that. But everybody anytime I tell somebody I don't think we should have guns anywhere in the United States, this is a personal belief of mine. they get super like defensive, and it's like, what, are you just gonna take guns from everybody? I'm like, no, I understand that that's not realistic. I understand that can't happen. This is just what I personally believe. So I get attacked even though I'm not saying or advocating necessarily for take guns away from everybody. I was like, I feel, and there are facts behind this, if there were no guns, murders would go down. Escalated just aggression with firearms would go down. You get rid of all knives, nobody's gonna get stabbed. You get rid of all guns, nobody's gonna get shot. It's very black and white. Like, I get it. But I have my reasons for feeling that way. But anytime I can't talk to my coworkers about it, and it's really hard because they love talking about it, and I'm like, I can't leave
I'm just gonna
and go do something else. I'm just like, all right, like,
you're just here.
I'm okay. Like, you want to take a gun to go hunting? That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. That's a whole different thing. But you want to have a gun in your car? I'm like, that worries me a little bit. Or my boss has talked about having a gun at work. I'm like, that worries me a little bit. I don't want to have one in my general vicinity. Yeah. And it's like, you have your right to exercise your handling and ownership of a weapon. But I should be able to exercise my right to not want to have that anywhere near me.
To distance myself from you handling a weapon.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it just goes right over their fucking head.
Yeah.
Anyway. I don't necessarily know where that came up.
Yeah. I definitely don't like when people try to argue in extremes, because I'm just like, well, you're while you're talking about the same thing, you're also not talking about the same thing, and it's annoying.
Yeah. The donut thing. Benoit's whole thing relating to his donut analogy.
Yeah.
It's not the donut, and it's not the donut hole. Inside the donut hole, there is a smaller hole inside the donut hole. I was really like, I'm kind of blanking on necessarily the context that he was using it in.
I think it's because he's missing. There's like a point in the case where he's trying to figure it out, but he can't, and it's the fact that
there's a central hole, but there's a hole within that hole.
It's because he was invited to solve the mystery. He doesn't understand.
He couldn't figure out who.
He couldn't figure out.
He's like, I know what happened. I know.
Yeah.
I know who did it. I know what happened, but why am I here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is it ends up being the most important part. It's not because we know essentially what happened. There was a point in the movie where when they explained everything, that it ended up being an accident, that Marta was responsible or whatever. I was like, so what's the point of this movie? Because we know what's going to happen. The whole thing is just going to be her trying to dodge a private investigator who we know is really smart. Okay, that's going to be interesting. And then obviously it has its own twist.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, okay, well, all right. That my expectations are thrown out the window now. That's fine. It's cool. That made me happy.
It's fine, I guess.
I don't think there were definitely moments where it was predictable. I was like, there's a reason that Chris Evans was my favorite character. I was like, he's the asshole. I'm pretty sure he did it. Like, as soon as they really introduce him, you start getting into it. And there's a moment where he's like, I feel like, I got really worried that I had to start fending for myself. And I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely the bad guy.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was, they start talking about that later, of that was one of the reasons that signified to her that he was, in fact, the person who did it. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, I love bad guys that are written that way. I really do. Because...
Wait, you love bad guys that are what?
Written that way.
Oh, written. Okay.
I love a good bad guy because heroes are boring.
Yeah.
Because you know what they're going to do every time.
Exactly.
But villains are always different, I think. Yeah. They all have different motivations, and it's... He had no problem not getting all the money. Like, you know that was his end goal, but I feel like if he had only got his cut, he would have been fine.
Yeah. Well, it's also another thing that he was taken out of it, too. He was taken out of the will.
Yeah.
Or it was threatened to be taken out of it.
Well, I know, but when he was making the negotiation with Marta.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even if everything had not gone his way, like, he didn't get caught, but she didn't get found guilty of, killing him. Mm-hmm. Because Emily brought up, well, I mean, and this is really obvious, even if she had completely accidentally overdosed him on morphine, that wasn't killing him. He did technically commit suicide.
Yeah.
So even regardless of the fact that it would have been, I don't think the Slayer rule thing that they were talking about would have kicked in, because he still killed himself.
Yeah, but it is awkward because I think the whole point of the reason of the Slayer rule is because of, like, yes, he did actually commit suicide, technically speaking, but at the same time, it's like you don't have, but you also don't technically have proof that he killed himself, technically speaking. Like, it's like obviously we as the viewer know that he committed suicide, but in this context, it's like, well, Martha says he committed suicide, but it's like,
but nobody else was there.
There's no proof. There's no actual proof that he did it. So like, that's the awkward part of like, yes, he did, but he also didn't.
Yeah,
because of reasons.
Benoit also, that well, I mean, he tells you that at the end that he knows Marta was there, but the whole time that he knows it's not her.
Yeah,
he knows it's not her. It's just about figuring out
if it's not her, then who actually is it? Yeah. Why is it not her?
He's like, no, it was your fucking shoe. There's fucking blood on your shoe.
Yeah.
Why is there blood on your shoe?
That's weird.
And the single, like, one of the best parts was the really, I don't want to call it shitty slow-mo, but it was at the end.
At the end, where
it was just
with a knife.
That whole scene was so over the top, and I loved it. And then the with the springy knife. He's like, shit. That was so.
I think
so great because I as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's a fake knife. Yeah. Before he even pulled it out, I was, that's a fake knife.
Yeah, it's obviously not real. Watching that scene, I really liked it because one, I think it works really well because of there is no moment like that. There is no like climax in this movie necessarily. No. And then also it was what I think it's Harlan says it. I think it's a quote that he says, and it's something like, people don't pay attention, and that's what he does when he's with his writing, is he wants people to pay attention. Because if people don't pay attention, then you never really you can never truly realize if whether a knife is real or if it's just a stage prop. And so it was like, that was the thing that like I thought about when in that moment of like, oh, this is that moment of like, it's just a stage prop, it's not an actual real knife.
I must have missed that part.
Because he doesn't pay attention. It's either Harlan says it or somebody says it, of like, it's something along those lines of like, you don't like, if you're not really looking at the clues, then you can never really figure it out. Like, you'll never be able to figure out. It's either like the truth or just something like that in that vein. But it's like, I'm pretty sure Harlan says it though, because I think it's like right before he slits his throat. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I remember. Yep.
Yeah. It's like you just never really know whether that's the real knife or if it's just a stage prop. And it's like it was just, that was like the thing that stuck out in my head in that scene of when he grabs the knife to stab Martha. It's just like, oh, that's a fake knife.
I definitely don't want to give Rian Johnson credit, but he did make a pretty good, pretty compelling movie.
Yeah, I think he definitely did I for sure really really liked the movie. I think it was really great. I was gonna say something. I can't. There's one thing that I would kind of complain about, and it's the fact that looking back at Ransom's plan, because like you figure it, you obviously know that's like Ransom's the one that hired Benoit to figure out this murder, and I guess maybe it's just because of Ransom's arrogance. But it's like at the end of the at the end of the wrap of the movie, I'm just like, why? How did he think this was going to work?
Yeah.
Like, you hire arguably the best detective ever, and just assume that you're gonna get away with it. Like, how it just seemed it was such a backwards idea of like, I don't know how you thought you were going to succeed when you hired the best detective to solve this murder case that you committed.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. That was definitely...
it was like, that was like the, like, at the end of the movie, I was like, the credits rolled, and I'm like, why did you think that would work? That doesn't make any sense. But I think maybe that's just because of the air. Like, I think it was supposed to allude to the, like, I think Branson's character in general was supposed to allude more to, like, he's this cocky prick of like, I could get away with anything.
Oh, I'm totally gonna do this.
Like, yeah. I'm literally the smartest person, and I think that's like, you see that when they're making the deal at the like diner or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, like, fuck my whole family. Like, they're all idiots. I'm the smart one here. Like, we're gonna fuck them all over. But I feel like it just didn't, like, I don't think that scene came across nearly as well, or not as impactful as I think it needed to be.
Sure. Yeah, his plan was kind of dumb.
Yeah, but yeah,
but he was still my favorite character.
It was, yeah, he's still a great character, and it works out really, really well still. Like, it works out super, super well. There was another thing is that I think I like the twist of it, of like you just assume, and again I think it also ties into the relationship of Harlan and Martha. Like, I loved that, you know, even though the labels were mixed up, she subconsciously still knows which one is right.
That seemed kind of cheesy to me.
It was a little cheesy because I think it's because, like, you just didn't, I don't know, like, it still felt loose, I would say. Mm-hmm. It definitely felt loose, of like, it was a loose argument of like, yeah, she's, like, it made sense, but like, if you look too far, it's very gilded. Like, if you, like, it makes sense on the outside. If you just like look at it, like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But like, as you look more into the details, it's like, does this make sense, or does this actually work? Like, I don't know.
I was like,
okay, I'll give it to you, I guess.
It only works in that specific context.
Yeah. Yeah. But it does make it really, really sad of like, oh, everything was fine, and this was pointless. And I'm like, I don't like that. Yeah. That's really depressing. I did like how it ended, though, of like, it's the shot of, I like the fact that here's the thing, that I think Harlan might be my second favorite character, because I like how, I liked how calm he was when Martha's freaking out of like, I should write this down. This is a great idea for a novel. Like, this sounds dope.
Right.
Like, this is great. And then I also like the fact that he orchestrates everything so that way all the secrets still come to light. That everything's orchestrated so that way everyone still figures out how shitty everyone is. Because like, I love the letter that signifies that the husband's cheating on Jamie Lee Curtis. I think.
Oh yeah.
There's I forget how the daughter figured out that the mother was spending everything, but like everything was like he orchestrates everything of like, everything has a fail safe. Like, if this doesn't work, this will work. If this doesn't work, this works. If this doesn't work, this works.
Oh,
and
yeah,
yeah, and I love the final shot where it's like the slow motion of pan of like all the people, and it's like, it's kind of like, it's just like a victory lap of how shitty they all are, and you just see Martha on the balcony just like sipping her coffee. I'm just like, hell yeah, like, yes. This is great.
Oh yeah, the coffee mug.
Yeah, because it's the coffee mug.
This is my house, my coffee.
My coffee, yeah.
Or my house, my rules, my coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really.
So
funny.
She's just sipping and just like watching them all leave.
My house
like,
now, bitch.
Good. Like, good.
I have all your money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you realize.
Oh, now
just
I can
how
afford the lawyers that you
these
said that I
people
could afford, or you would help me with.
Yeah, and it's like it feels good that Martha like finally comes to the terms of like, these are all terrible people.
Yeah, they're all pretty bad.
Yeah.
Except for Meg. Meg's okay.
Except for Meg. Meg's okay. She's okay enough.
Yeah. Yep. All right, well, that's 2 hours.
Yeah. So I think that's a good place to call it there. So I want to thank everybody else for watching the C Plus podcast. If you want to check out some of our previous episodes, you can go over to my YouTube channel and check all of that out. You can check out all the previous episodes as well as this episode that will probably come out later this week on YouTube. Yeah, take care. Do you have anything else? I got nothing else. So.
I got nothing else because I didn't get very far. I only read the first issue of Rumble.
Okay.
The one thing that I really tried to do was get Knives Out done. So. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys in a couple weeks, probably near the end of June for our next episode and all that good stuff. But if you want to stick around, Hex and I will be playing some Borderlands 3 in just a little bit. So, okay. See you guys next time.